Hello all, this is October's ESL Talks. Just to remind you, our first ESL Talks was about random selection. No more who can tell me, but we all signed that oath to try our best to use strategies to randomly select students and increase engagement and participation. September's ESL Talks was about rate of speech, to pause and emphasize words so that we can reach even our intermediate listeners. And October's focus is content and language objectives. And it's pretty obvious that everyone has a good understanding of content objectives and the importance of content objectives for our ELLs especially, so that they really know what to focus in on, what to listen for, and what they're responsible for learning. And just as important for our ELLs, and really all of our students, are language objectives. It helps them know how they will use the language that they're learning, whether it be listening, speaking, reading, or writing. And honestly, for me as a teacher, it just helps me be intentional as I'm planning my lessons. Okay, what am I going to do? Are they going to need to write about what they learn? Are they going to have time to turn and talk about what they learned? So I think this is an area that we could grow in as a campus, and I just wanted to give you a couple of tools that I use that hopefully will be helpful to you. This is a language objective generator. It's really easy to use. You can just put it on your desktop. And then, so for example, say I'm a science teacher and I am teaching a unit with really rich vocabulary, and I want to make sure that my students retain it, so I know they have to use it. And I want them to speak to each other, use it orally. And so I'm going to find a focus here, like for example, speak using grade level content area vocabulary. So this would be, my language objective would be something like speak using the words prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And after I've, presented information for 8 to 10 minutes, I would say, okay, turn and talk to your shoulder partner, explain the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. You could start with the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells is, and then give them time to talk and just roam around the room. It's one example. Another example, since we're writing across content areas, for example, I'm a math teacher. I want my students to write. I'm already doing Cornell Notes, so I just want them to use the vocabulary that we're learning. And so my language goal might be to write using newly acquired vocabulary about geometry. And that's going to be reflected at the end, just when it's time to write that summary. At the bottom of the Cornell Notes, I go over to my language objective board and say, okay, remember our language goal is to write using vocabulary about geometry. So that's what I'm looking for in your summary today. One more example. I'm a history teacher. I've looked at my LIAG and I notice I have some students who are intermediate in listening. So I want to be really intentional about planning for listening comprehension. So maybe I would say to my students, usually I give you the important vocabulary that you'll need to listen for, but today I want you to identify important words and phrases heard in a discussion about the 13 colonies. So I give everyone a sticky note at the beginning of class. I tell them that, and at the end of class, I say, okay, everyone bring your sticky notes up here, and we talk about the words that they identified as important. So those are just some ideas. I hope this tool is useful for you. I'll share it with you on email, and I'm also going to put some other sentence stems that you can use for language objectives in your box. Please let me or the ESL team know if you need any support with that. And have a great October.